In 1953, Chevrolet began producing its Corvette sports car. It's undergone several changes and generations since that time, but it's always remained a legend, a classic, if you will, a hallmark of the Chevrolet brand, the American muscle car, the American sports car. Up until 2020, every Corvette, the first 7 generations, was a front-engine, rear-wheel drive sports car. But for 2020, Chevrolet finally made a mid-engine Corvette. And here we have one today. I'm a couple years late to the game, but I'm going to show you this one anyway. This is a 2022 C8 Corvette 2LT. Today, full walk-around tour and review of this car inside and out. We're going to talk about it all, the features, the quirks, if you want to use that term, the powertrain, all of it. And then we're going to take this thing out on the road and we're going to finally experience, or I should say I'm going to finally experience what it's like to drive one of the hottest cars of the 2020s. So let's get started. Before we begin, huge thanks to Twin City Certified of Maryville, Tennessee for providing this vehicle for this review today. You can follow the link in the description below to check out their inventory, as well as the inventory for the entire Twin City family of dealerships. So let's start, as always, at the front of the car and just check out how aggressive and mean looking this car is. This is a beautiful vehicle. It's sexy, it's mean, it's beautiful. Come down here real quick, you see these nice full LED taillights and running lamps. You have these 2 LED strips that serve as your daytime running lamps. And then you have this upper strip will actually change to be your signal. So if we unlock the doors, you can see there's your signal strip flashes, and then gradually the side and top strips light up and your headlights come on, also full LED. That's really, down below that you got nice black accents against the white color, or against any color for that matter. Here you've got a big air inlet on each side of the car. You can see the radiator behind that, so you can get just as much cooling as you possibly can for the big engine in the rear. Interesting, this little fin that runs across it is not just for style, although it does make it look very cool. It's also there for safety, so you don't have quite as big an opening should you hit somebody or some animal. At least that's what I have heard in other review videos. If we continue across the front, you can see there's a couple of cameras. There's one on the left side, and there's one on the right side. So these cameras are actually used for a surround view of the car, also a front camera, so you know if you're parking close to something, maybe a curb or whatever, you don't risk smashing the front end of your nice sports car into the front of that. Coming up from the front grille area, you have your distinctive Corvette badge, a hallmark of all Corvettes, and if we hit this button on the fob, we can open this lid, which is no longer a hood over an engine, but is now a front trunk, or a frunk, if you will. And it's got a reasonable amount of space in it. It's not exactly enormous, but it will hold this Swiss gear bag that I carry all my gear and my computer in, absolutely no problem. Also, you can see off to the right side here, we do have a nice little cargo light here, your emergency escape button, and there is a 12-volt outlet in here as well, so you can actually charge things from the frunk of your Corvette. And I love what they've done with the trunk lid here, the frunk lid. They gave it this nice, jagged, sporty, aggressive design. They didn't have to do this. They could have just brought it down and back up, the classic pointy Chevrolet shape, but they decided to make it look cool, and I love that about Chevrolet. Coming down the side, you've got these very, very nice 5-spoke wheels. I love how they're dark with the light accents down the middle of each spoke. You got your red calipers right there behind them that say Corvette on them. Very cool look. 19s in the front, 20s in the rear, wrapped in Michelin Pilot all-season tires. Continuing down the side of the car, you can see right here we have this big air intake, which is what feeds air directly to the engine since this is a mid-engine car. And I love how they integrated it into the door. It just kind of flows into the door and then back into the rear fender. As I can show you right here, just push this button, door opens, and you can see how it's integrated into the door. Very, very cool look. I really do like that. Coming to the back now, you see this nice, wide, aggressive, sporty rear end. Looks very good on the back of this car. You got Corvette written across in the center there. Looks really cool. You got some vents on the back, likely for heat extraction and whatnot, because you know you still got to keep these things as cool as you can in a car like this. Above those is these taillights, and these are kind of a really cool taillight design. First, I love how they look. They got these 2 little hook shapes here that actually serve as your taillights. I'll light those up in a second. Actually, if I go ahead and push the button, and you can see those light up. And if you noticed just a second ago, the turn signal flashing right up here in this section here. Push the button again, you can see it's a sequential turn signal, but unlike some that light up one LED and then sweep across to turn them all on, this one lights them all up and then gradually turns them off, which is kind of a cool, unique look to this car. And of course, we move over a little bit, we do have the reverse lights that share a similar looking pod. Interestingly, the brake lights on this car share a spot with the turn signals. So instead of having independent signals from brake lights, much like a lot of American cars, especially General Motors, you have shared brake lights and turn signals. I do kind of wish with all this taillight real estate that they had chosen to, maybe do some independent signals. It probably would have looked a little bit cooler. Of course, who am I to judge? I mean, it's already extremely cool looking. Down from that, you've got nice square quad exhaust tips, 2 on each side. These look very, very cool, and they make great sounds when you fire that motor up. We'll get to that a little bit later. Now, talking about the overall body style of your C8 Corvette. Now, your Corvette is available in 2 configurations, a coupe, all of which are targa tops, meaning it has a removable roof, but not a true convertible, or a true convertible like this. Now, unfortunately, with your convertible car, you cannot see the engine through a glass cover. It's underneath a cover under the top here, so you're not going to be able to see the engine, which is very unfortunate because I'd like to show you guys that. I'll try to throw a picture up here, see if I can find one to show you exactly what the engine looks like, because it is a very good looking engine. Now, although you don't have a clear engine cover in your convertible to see the engine, it doesn't have the hatchback, which covers both the engine and the cargo compartment. You still do have a cargo compartment. So if you double press the button here, and this lid will open right up. And here is your rear cargo compartment. It's roomy enough. It's got a net in here. Nothing extra special to see here, but it'll hold a pretty good amount of stuff. It'll hold some bags for a couple of people to take a weekend trip somewhere. It's good enough for this car. This, combined with your front trunk up front, total combined storage space of 13 cubic feet. So obviously not the most, but there are cars of this caliber that have way less storage than this. Now, to close it, you don't have to slam this lid. If you just touch, this thing has a soft close system, so just touch it and it pulls itself in. How nice is that? If we come in a little bit closer on the roof, you're gonna see something interesting. There is a camera up here on the roof. Now, this is not your reversing camera per se. Your reversing camera when you're backing the car up is actually located right here above the license plate, like it is in most vehicles. That camera on the roof is for your rear view mirror. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, I'll get to that in a second. Below that camera, you can see there is a small rear window on this thing that can be rolled down in case you want to get a little bit of a breeze through there without the AC, or if you just want to have the top up, but you really want to hear that exhaust, which I think is how most people are going to use that window. Now let's go ahead and climb on inside the C8 Corvette. And to start, we'll start with the key. And this is a really good looking key. First, we'll turn it over. You've got the Corvette logo on the back of it. A little bit of chrome strip. Looks really, really good. Other side, you got all kinds of buttons. You got one to lower the top, which is really cool. Lock, unlock, front and rear trunk, and your engine start stop button. Now, to get in the car, I'm sure you saw a second ago, or to get in the car, you reach up under this part of the intake and there's a button. Hit that and the door opens right up. And now we step inside the car. Now let's start here on the door panel. Now, this is not the only color options available, but this is beautiful. So you got this two-tone leather. You got this black and this tan color with this tan stitching in the black areas. It looks really, really good. You got a bit of a door pocket down here, which can't hold very much, but it can hold something. You've got your opener buttons for your front and for your rear trunk. Your power lock buttons here, your release button to get out of the car, because again, it is a power release. Up from that, your window switches are all housed in this nice brushed aluminum trim here. There's nice brushed aluminum speaker grills for your Bose Performance Series sound system. I mean, this is just absolutely beautiful. You've got 2 different seat memory settings as well. Just an absolutely gorgeous interior, and this is just the beginning of it. Down here on the door sill, you got this nice silver and black sill plate with Stingray printed on it. The Corvette logo right next to that looks really, really cool. Inside on the seats, you can see the full power adjustability of these seats. You see this aggressive seat bolstering here. These are made to hold you in. These are the optional GT2 bucket seats, which are carbon fiber bucket seats, by the way, heated and ventilated. Very, very cool, very good looking, and these are definitely going to hold you into place very, very well. Down here you see this little lever right here. This is an emergency door release. So if for some reason you're in the car, the battery's dead, or the power release fails, you still have a way to get out of the car. You're not stranded in your Corvette. Although, I mean, come on. If you're gonna get stranded in a car, why not something as cool as this? Looking at the dash down here on this lower portion, you've got some controls for your gauge display brightness, as well as your electronic parking brake. Not exactly a fan, but that's what cars are doing now. Above that, you've got controls for your heads-up display. This car does have a really nice heads-up display. We'll show that off a little bit later. All right, now that we're inside in the air conditioning, I want to start by jumping back over to these switches on your door. So if you notice, there's your standard array of switches. You got power mirrors, you got your power locks down below that, but right here, there are 4 window switches. Now this is a 2-door car, so what's up with that? Well, here you've got, of course, your front windows, your side windows, and your doors, both auto up and down, which is of course always nice to have. Here's the button to raise and lower that small window behind you, and this is the button to control your convertible top. And of course, I'm sure everyone would like to see that convertible top in action, so let's see it, shall we? Directly in front of the driver is one of the craziest things anyone has ever done in a car. The circle square steering wheel. I'm going to refer to this as a squircle. And there's only a few people in my life who will get that and appreciate that, one of which is my cousin, and you are welcome. So let's take a look at this squircle steering wheel a little bit more closely. Now first, starting right in the center, very nice looking chrome outline with your Corvette logo, of course. No Chevrolet logo here, except unless you look really closely. It's got the Corvette, of course it does. On your left, of course, you got all your controls for your cruise control. This thing, of course, has full cruise control. You have a Z mode here. We'll get to that in a second. Down here, some favorites buttons to scroll through various favorite items in your infotainment. Over on this side, you have your volume up and down buttons. Pretty typical switch gear for most GM vehicles, even the work trucks. You just kind of pull up or down to adjust your audio volume. Up here, you got controls for your phone, voice commands, and heated steering wheel, the heated squircle. And you have on here the controls for the right side of your digital gauge display. On the back side of the wheel, very nice looking, very good feeling paddle shifters up and down, because this is an 8-speed dual clutch transmission. Behind that, typical wiper stalks, signal stalks, nothing incredibly fancy to look at, although they look sort of nice to go along with this car. You'll also see here on the top of the wheel, you've got your center stripe, which matches your interior accent color, your nice tan leather color. Now let's move up to your digital instrument cluster. No more analog gauges for your Chevrolet Corvette. It's all a digital instrument cluster screen. Now, first off, obviously, big round tachometer right in the middle with your digital speed in the center. Let's give it a rev just to see that thing move right there. And if we switch through our various drive modes, you can see this thing actually changed. So right now we're in tour mode, which is pretty much your regular mode. If we click another time, we go into sport mode, and you can see the gauge gets a little bit more aggressive, turns a little more red, more sporty since you're in sport mode. And then if we turn it to track mode, then you get this horizontal tachometer across the top. You get what gear you're in right here, your speed down below, all your important information like tire pressure, oil pressure, transmission temperature, oil temperature, right here on the side. Everything you're going to want to monitor while you're on the track, while you're racing this thing. Down here, of course, your coolant temperature, which is there all the time, and of course it stays there in track mode. It better. Another rev, you see that horizontal tack shoot across. Very, very cool. Not going to give it a big rev because we are here at the dealership. Now if we put this thing back down to tour mode, and there we are. Now you can see over here you've got a couple of panes here. You got your average and current MPGs, which are not going to be, a lot in this car. But on the right side, you got a lot of your changeable information. So if right here we've got our trip computer, if we click over, here's your performance information. So you get a performance timer. Yes, this thing will measure its own 0 to 60 time. Chevrolet claims a 2.8 seconds 0 to 60, and that has been tested by various automotive journalists to be true. We scroll down one from that, you do have a lap timer. Once again, that's where those front cameras come in for performance data recorders, and your G-force meter, both forward and backwards, side to side. Very cool. If we click over another one, you get your radio stations. You're going to tell you what's playing on the radio, or what's going on with your audio maintenance. Here's all your fluid life, air filter life, and of course various information about the engine. So that's your maintenance panel. Click over another one. Here's some options. We go into display design, and you can see this right now it's linked to driver mode, but if you want to just say you just want to put it in track but stay in tour mode, you absolutely can, or you can turn it back to tour if you'd like. I'm going to take it and I'm going to put it back to linked to drive mode. Info tiles selection. So if we click on this, you can see we can change what tiles are displayed on the left side over here. So right now it's got your fuel economy. If we click down, oh, we can put oil pressure over there on the bottom. Maybe we want oil temperature. Maybe we want time and temp. Maybe we want tire status. Maybe you want your transmission fluid temperature. Or you can just go and put no tiles over there and have it nice and clean. Or you can bring your battery voltage in there, or you can put that right back with your fuel economy. And let's go ahead and put the time and temperature down there, because that seems like a nice way of doing things. Click out of that, speed warning. So you can enable it to warn you when you're going to exceed a certain speed. Back up from there, change your units, tire pressure, heads up, and all that different options. Here we have the simplify panel. If we go over here and click the check, it's going to do exactly that. It's just going to simplify. It's going to clear everything except this central tachometer, as you can see right there. So you have no distractions, just what you need. If you want to bring it back, just click the check, the center wheel again, and it's going to bring it right back to you. Now, if we move over to the right from our 12-inch gauge cluster screen, we have our 8-inch digital infotainment screen. Now, this is a very nice, colorful, easy to read, easy to use screen, very responsive. I mean, as soon as you touch it, as soon as you do anything, it responds to your touch. You do have Apple CarPlay, you do have Android Auto, which of course everybody's looking for, Spotify integration, OnStar, Amazon Alexa, all this crazy stuff. You have your climate controls here, which are kind of redundant. I'll explain why that is here in a second. Go back to our home button. Right now I've got the audio muted. We want to keep it that way. You got your phone, you got your nav. We touch that button here. You're going to get a decent sized map. It's not exactly huge, and it's not going to be placed in the gauge screen, but it's aimed right at the driver. It's very easy to see, very easy to read, so it really doesn't need to be. We do have the big home button right there. If we click this button again, you have your climate controls again. So you actually have two on-screen buttons to get to your climate controls. I do like down here in the bottom, no matter what is displayed up top here, you always have this array of controls and little status indicators down here in the bottom, showing that it's 92 degrees outside. Dear Lord. The only two physical controls you have for your infotainment are right up here. You have a physical home button, and you have this button here, which mutes and unmutes your audio and is also your volume control. But that is it for physical controls for your infotainment. To the left of that infotainment, you do have the engine start stop button. Very cool looking aluminum button. Looks really good, feels really good. Really, it just looks good, cool in a cool car like this. Below this infotainment screen, you have probably one of the thinnest climate control vents I think I've ever seen in a car, but it works. I mean, it's a small cabin, so you don't really need anything huge. You've got one over here, you got one to the left of the driver, and you've got two over there for the passenger. So you still get plenty of cooling vents in this car. Now these do have this little tab kind of thing where you can flip it up and down and side to side. I don't know if that's the best way of doing it, but that's how they do it, and it feels okay. It doesn't feel too cheap. We'll see how it holds up in the long run, I guess. Moving back from your infotainment and your climate vents, here is your automatic transmission selector. So first off, there is zero manual option in your C8 Corvettes. Unfortunately, they have went with no manuals. So, I mean, I'm sure a lot of us hope that one day they might figure out how to do it, but for now, there is none. However, what you do get is an 8-speed Tremec dual clutch transmission, which, of course, anyone who knows dual clutch transmissions in performance cars knows those are some of the quickest shifting transmissions. No human is going to shift that quick. But looking at these controls, these are kind of cool. So here you have your park button, which needs to lit up because we're in park. For reverse, you pull up on this lever right here. You can see it's lit up, it's in reverse. Neutral is a button below that, and drive is another switch you pull up on. Notice here it says auto. That's because that is automatic mode. Down here is an M. If we push that M, now we're in manual mode, and we can use those paddle shifters over there. If we go back and put it in reverse, here our backup camera comes up on the screen, and this is a pretty good looking camera actually. It's got nice graphics, it's very easy to read, very easy to use. We push this button right here, you're going to get a bit wider of an angle, although at that point you're starting to see body work in the shot. Here we have a front end zoom. Remember how I was saying those two front cameras help to create your front image? That's what you're looking at right here. Push this button again, you got all the images. So you got the left, you got the right, and you've got a wide angle of the entire front of the car. Push this button here, and that's going to determine whether or not you have guidelines on your image. Moving sideways just a little bit from your transmission control, you got two buttons right here. One is your traction control off. I don't know if I'd use that or not. This is a very powerful car. And this button says, with a camera logo that says front, if we push this button, that's a quick way to pull up those front-facing cameras that I was just showing you. So once again, left, right, and a wide angle of the entire front. So once again, if you're coming up on a parking stall, or you have or a curb, or a building, or another car, whatever, this is how you don't hit the front end of this car on anything. One button that is not present here that would be if the option had been purchased on this car is a front lift system. Now we all know a lot of exotic sports cars, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, what have you, have a front lift system that's going to raise the car above, it's going to raise the front of the car up so that you can clear speed bumps and, you know, steep driveway inclines and whatnot. This car unfortunately is not equipped with that. However, it is an option if you so choose. And back from that, you have this nice leather wrapped handrest, if you will, with the Corvette logo kind of embossed into it, some nice stitching. And this right here says mode. This is where you select your drive modes, this little wheel right here. And you can see if I turn this wheel to the right, then we're changing drive modes. Turn it to the left, we're changing drive modes back. So you see here when I select a drive mode, it brings us up in the infotainment screen to show what exactly is going on in that mode. So let's jump back to that tour mode, shall we? So you can see the steering feel light up, you can see the engine performance and shift times, engine sound, that kind of thing. If we put it into sport mode, then you see the engine sound's going to liven up. You've got a brake feel indicator now. Your engine and shift speeds kind of increase. Let me back up that because that doesn't stay up there very long. And of course your steering feel increases. If we put it in track, then everything just goes all the way to the right. It's full on. It's everything just as intense as it can be. Now I'm going to click back 3 past tour mode to my mode, and this is where you can tell the car how you want it to be set up. If we go into edit, you can change your steering feel. Maybe you want it to feel like you're in sport, maybe you want it to feel like you're in track, or maybe you just want to feel like in tour. Brake feel, you can tell it how you want that to be. Engine sound, you can change that. And that takes us to this Z mode button here on the wheel. So if I push Z mode, it lights up, and here is Z mode. Now Z mode is a configurable drive mode. You set it up how you want it, you hit that button on the steering wheel, and it instantly goes into your configuration. So let's pull that back up. Say I want this thing to be full steering feel, I can set it up. Brake feel, set that like that. Change the engine sound, maybe I want it to be stealthy, but you know, still have everything else I can be. Or maybe I want it to be as loud as I possibly can with a little bit reduced steering feel, whatever. You can set that up, and whenever you get in the car, just hit that button and it instantly goes into your configured drive mode. Now that we're done playing with drive modes and engine sounds, we're going to continue back from your transmission control area to right here. This panel, if we push this to open, becomes cup holders. So you still get cup holders in your C8 Corvette. It's kind of a cool integration. If you don't want them, just close it and they're not there anymore. Open it, voila, cup holders. Coming back from the cup holders, if we push this button on the side here, you do get center console storage a little bit. Not a whole lot, it's not very deep, but inside of it you do have a USB-A, USB-C port, as well as an auxiliary input and an SD card slot. Close out, you can see it's still finished in that same black leather, and it does have your contrasted stitching on it to make it look really nice. Going backwards from that and up the back wall of the car, here is a wireless cell phone charging slot. So you're gonna stick your cell phone straight into this, wireless charging in your C8. Up from that, here's our speaker grill, and I'm gonna try to angle the camera just right. I think you can probably make out the Corvette logo as part of the speaker grill. Very cool and kind of subtle. You have to really be looking at it. It has to be in the right light And it looks like we're just barely in the right light to see that. Very cool. Once again, brushed aluminum in that speaker grill. And there's this badge on the speaker grill, which is not present on all of your C8 Corvettes. This says National Corvette Museum Delivery, worth the wait, and it's got the vehicle's VIN on it. That's right, Corvette Museum Delivery. Apparently you can take delivery of these things at the Corvette Museum, and when you do, you get that plaque on your speaker grill that's got the logo right there with for the Corvette Museum. Now that is cool. I want to talk about these seats one more time now that we're in the car. Once again, very good looking, sporty, highly bolstered bucket seats. Look really, really good. They are heated and ventilated. These are your optional GT2 carbon fiber bucket seats. You can see the carbon fiber right here. Once again, really, really cool looking. And up here on the headrest, you once again have the Corvette logo, which is kind of embossed, if you will, raised in the headrest. Very cool look. Now, I mentioned a minute ago, this car has a heads-up display, and a good one at that. I'm going to try to capture this on camera as best I can. So here it is right now in tour mode. You can see you've just got your miles per hour, you got your gear. We're going to switch it over to sport mode, and it's going to change a little bit. Now you get your round tachometer, you get your G-forces, and of course your gear and your speed. We put it into track mode, and you're going to get only the most important information, which is your speed, tachometer, and your gear. Now I'm hoping this thing comes through well on camera. From where I'm sitting, it's very easy to read, very, very clear. No problem whatsoever reading this thing. It's right in your line of sight, so you have no excuse for not seeing your speed, except for maybe if you decide to, I don't know, dim it to where you can't see it anymore. Oops. We'll put that brightness back up, and you can see it is positionable. You can move it up and down to meet your needs. You can change the information that you're seeing in it, so no matter what mode you're in, you can decide what you want to see in this heads-up display, regardless of what drive mode you're in. Now, as we move over towards the passenger side, we're going to stop here in the middle, and we're going to look at this right here. This dividing line of the car is not just a dividing line. This bridge of sorts is all of your climate controls. So if we start at the top here you've got your temperature controls for the driver's zone, your heated ventilated seat controls, and you've got the driver's ventilated seats turned on, your button to synchronize the two sides temperature, your auto, here's your positioning, fan speed right here in the middle of everything. As we move down, here's the main power for the system, your AC button, your recirc, here's your defrosters front and rear. Here you have your heated and ventilated for the passenger, and then the temperature for your passenger zone climate control. So obviously this car is extremely driver focused. Of course it is, it's a driver's car. Puts the driver's climate right on top of everything, angles the infotainment screen right to the driver. I mean, this is a driver's car that you can take a passenger along in. Now, if we come over to the passenger side, you see those two thin vents again, like I mentioned a minute ago. Once again, it's perfectly fine. It's enough air to cool anybody down or heat them up, whatever the case may be. But if you're thinking, does this thing have a glove box? I don't see a handle or a lock anywhere. Actually, it does. In between the vents here is this button. If you push this button, there's your glove box. Now, if we look over here in the side of the glove box, kind of over the left side, you're gonna see this little panel. It looks like it's got something in it. So we push on that little something. There we go. That is an SD card, a full-size SD card. So what exactly is that there for? Well, I mentioned a minute ago, this thing has a performance data recorder. That's what the front cameras are for. This is here so that when you're recording your laps on the track, you've got something to save it to. So if you want to go back and stick it in your computer, review your laps, see what your times were, see where you went right, where you went wrong, or you just want to go show off to your friends, there's that card. You can do that, stick it in your computer. You got everything you want to show anybody, including yourself. Making our way up to the roof area now. Here you can see, first off, you got your reading lights here above the rear view mirror. It's not the best place, but they're there because this is, once again, the convertible vehicle. You're not going to be able to have them up here on the roof. Up here above the mirror, you got your typical Chevrolet things, your OnStar, your SOS, and your hazard light button is up here instead of down below in the car. Hit that, there goes your hazards. Now, below that is the main focus of this area. This is your rear view mirror. Now, how is this the main focus, you ask? You remember me talking about the camera mounted on the roof being for rear view. That's where this comes into play. Now, right now it's in normal mirror mode. You can see out the back window. You can see the rear body work of the car, but you got kind of limited visibility out the rear of this car with that small window. Well, if we flip this switch, this activates that rear view camera, and now your rear view mirror is on a screen, and there's no obstructions whatsoever of your rearward visibility. Here we have some buttons down here. If we hit those, we have a few adjustments. You have brightness. If you want to adjust your brightness, you can. This one, if you want to zoom in, zoom out, you can do that. And this one is to your up and down positioning. So a configurable rear view mirror screen, which is something that General Motors has started doing in pretty much all their vehicles, and a lot more companies are starting to do. I've seen it in the latest Toyota Highlanders, and a lot of cars are starting to adopt this. This is a really great idea. Enhanced rearward visibility, something that everyone in every car should have, especially in a car like this where rearward visibility is already very limited. All right, now I'm going to stand here next to the rear lid because that's as close as I can get to the engine itself to talk to you about it. But underneath this cover, 6.2 liter naturally aspirated LT2 V8, producing 490 horsepower and 470 pound-feet of torque. Mated to an 8-speed Tremec dual clutch transmission. Once again, there is unfortunately no manual option available. However, with this engine and transmission setup, this car achieves 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds and can run a quarter mile in 11.2 and can achieve a top speed over 190 miles per hour, almost 200 in a Chevy Corvette. Now it is worth noting that this car is equipped with the 2LT package. So your base is the 1LT, this is your 2LT. This comes standard with that heads-up display, your wireless phone charging, your heated and ventilated seats, heated steering wheel, 14-speaker Bose sound system in this thing, blind spot monitoring, and a whole lot more. Now you can step up to the 3LT trim, which is going to load this thing down with even more options, such as a sewn leather interior and a lot more carbon fiber trim than just those optional GT2 bucket seats. Now, as you can probably imagine, a 6.2 liter naturally aspirated V8 in a Chevy performance car makes some pretty sweet sounds. So let's put this thing in sport mode and let you hear what that sounds like. All right, now pricing for this car, and I'm going to be speaking in 2022 numbers, and I've got some references because I'm just not going to remember everything, so y'all have to excuse that part. So once again, like I said, this car is available in two versions, a coupe and a convertible. Your coupe is available in 3 levels. The 1LT that starts around $65,500, your 2LT starts around $72,900, your 3LT starting around $77,600. Now, if you were to do the convertible, there's configurations in that order. 1LT, $73,000, 2LT, almost $80,000, 3LT, right around $84,500. And those, of course, are starting MSRPs before you begin adding options. Now, you can also equip your C8 Corvette with a package that this one is not equipped with, and that is the Z51 Performance Package. For an addition... Now you can equip your C8 Corvette with a package that this one is not equipped with, which is the Z51 Performance Package. Again, speaking for 2022 models, for an additional $6,345, your Z51 Performance Package includes Z51 Performance Suspension, so better, more high-performance suspension, manually adjustable, electronic limited slip diff, improved rear axle ratio of 5.171, you get Z51 Performance Brembo brakes on this thing. Performance exhaust, because apparently the non-Z51 isn't loud enough as it is. Of course it's not. You also get the Z51 body match spoiler, which is of course a more aggressive spoiler than what you see here. A heavier duty cooling system because you are also producing more power. You get 5 more horsepower, making it 495 with your Z51 Performance package. You also get standard with this package Michelin Pilot Sport 4S summer only tires. Whereas these are all seasons on the non-Z51, you get summer onlys on the Z51. So pretty cool additional options for another $6,300. Now if you're thinking that you're gonna go buy a brand new C8 Corvette and the 3LT with the Z51 is gonna be your best, nicest, most performance-y option you can get, just wait, because Chevrolet is bringing out the Z06 Corvette. And they've announced pricing. So real quick performance figures. Your engine is bumped to 670 horsepower, flat plane crank engine producing 670 with a 0 to 60 time of 2.6 seconds instead of the 2.8. Now pricing was just recently announced for the Z06, as in just a few days before this video was made. Again, it will come in 2 configurations, your coupe and your convertible, in 3 trim levels. So for your coupe, your 1LZ trim begins at 105,000. 2LZ begins at 114,200, 3LZ around 119,800. For your convertible, your 1LZ will begin at 112,500, 2LZ 122,200, 3LZ 126,800. So, if you think you can spend $126,000 on a Corvette, then you may want to wait for the Z06 3LZ trim as a possible option for you. Now that we're done talking about this thing from the outside and inside, let's see if we can't get this thing out on the road and see what the driving experience is like. I've been wanting to do this for more than 2 years now. All right, sitting behind the wheel and going to drive the C8 Corvette 2LT. Now, I'm not going to be allowed to take it very far, not even down the highway right now. You know, as small as my channel is, you know, people are still a bit wary about letting somebody take, you know, like me, take a car of this value out and drive on a public road, and I totally get that. But oh dear God, that was just light acceleration, and that felt great. Now I am in sport mode. Wow, just wow, that felt intense, and that was just light acceleration. Now I will say, sitting in this car while we're just kind of putting around here, sitting in this car is an experience in and of itself. You got these GT2 carbon fiber bucket seats, and they are very well bolstered. I am held in here very nicely. I am not going anywhere. Even if I was able to take this thing around some corners, I'd be perfectly planted. The Squircle steering wheel, definitely an interesting thing to hold, to use. It's obviously not anything, it's not unusable, but at the same time, you know, it is definitely a strange thing to operate. But you know, whatever, it's a steering wheel. I have the ventilated seats on right now. It's 92 degrees outside, and my butt is pleasantly cool, I think is the perfect way to put that. It feels nice in this car. Visibility in this thing, obviously out the front, is great. You've got a really cool view over the hood with those front wheel arches in front of you, the way they kind of come up from the middle. If you put your head up, you can kind of see the nose, but you don't really need to. Side mirror visibility, you know, it's decent for a car like this. It's kind of cool to look at the passenger side rear view mirror and see the air intake for the engine behind you. Out the back, great to have the rear view mirror camera set up in this thing. It is definitely much needed in a car like this with the rear visibility. I am in sport mode. Let me see if I can give it just a little bit of something here in this long parking lot. Oh yeah, that feels good. This thing is quick, guys. Like I said, I'm not going to be able to take it out on the road and truly test its performance and test its handling and whatnot, but if I just take it out here and I kind of toss it around, I can feel this thing feels good to drive. Obviously, I'm not driving very fast. I don't think I even hit 15 miles an hour there, which I'm not going to hit, but it doesn't take much to tell that this is a very great performance car, that this thing is fast and it is fun. Just putting around this parking lot here, it is fun in and of itself. I mean, this is truly, I mean, this is a cool car. I can't put it any other way. See if I can give it just one more, make sure there's nobody around me. And that was just to 30 miles an hour, so you're nothing crazy, but you can definitely feel what it's like. All right, let's put that rear window down and maybe hear the engine a little bit better. And here we go. Once again, that was just a 30, maybe 32. So not a lot, but God, this thing sounds good under a load. And I can only imagine how good it would sound if I had it out on the road and could really go through all 8 of those gears and work the paddles. Man, this thing's got to be an absolute blast. Speaking of which, it looks like I can achieve higher than second gear. Let's see if we can get a gauge of the paddle response as well. All right, so we put it down in manual mode. Let's see if we can feel the paddle response out of this thing now. Instantaneous. I mean, the paddle shift response in this thing, it's a dual clutch transmission. So, I mean, as the second you hit that paddle, you're getting a gear change. And that's exactly what you're looking for in a performance dual clutch car. So, I mean, once again, truly great car. I can't say enough. I know I'm gushing like somebody who's never done this before, because I have never done this before. Admittedly, this is my first time in a car of this performance, you know, and I can't thank the people at Twin City enough for allowing me to do this, because they honestly could have told me just directly where to shove it, and they were nice enough to let me do this much. Obviously, I can't get out on the road, but there's no mistaking, just from the little bit I'm doing right here in this, you know, kind of closed off area, this is a car. This thing is definitely cool, and I'm so happy that I finally got a chance to check this out. Let's just do one more. It got to 30 miles an hour like that. Obviously, I can't do much more than that. I absolutely cannot, and I wish I could, but I can't, and that is very unfortunate. But I'm going to take what I can get. This is an experience. I'm sorry. I am genuinely excited at the fact that I'm driving this car right now, even if it's just in a parking lot. Guys, if you can afford a C8 Corvette, do it. Do it. Especially now, you know, it's 2022, and all the automakers, all the performance cars are going to eventually stop having big V8 engines. You know, Audi has already announced that the current generation R8 is going to be the last V10 they ever make. In fact, it's probably going to be the last internal combustion R8 they ever make. So, I mean, even the highest performers are having to buckle to these demands for more efficiency and more electrics. So, if you're wanting to get a performance vehicle while you still can, that burns gas and doesn't need a supercharger or a turbocharger to go fast, this is definitely worth considering. All right, y'all, that's going to do it for the 2022, the C8 Chevrolet Corvette convertible. This has been an experience. Even though I wasn't able to get it out on the road, on the highway, and actually really put it through its paces and see how it goes, just the little bit I was able to do told me enough. This is a great performance car, and this thing can run with all kinds of supercars, Ferraris, Lambos, Audis, you name it. This thing can run with them for a fraction of the cost, and that is just so cool to be able to say about an American sports car. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this review video as much as I enjoyed filming it, although I'm not so sure that's possible, because this is the most exciting video I've ever made. Huge thanks once again to the folks at Twin City Certified in Maryville, Tennessee, for allowing me the opportunity to review and somewhat drive this amazing vehicle. If you want to see their inventory, there will be a link down in the description below to their website, so you can check out this car and the rest of the inventory at the Twin City family of dealerships. Also, while you're here, folks, why don't you go back to the channel and check out the rest of the videos on the channel, see what you think, and if you like what you see, consider subscribing to the channel, hit the notification bell so you'll know when videos go up. Also, follow on Facebook and Instagram at That Car Vlog channel is another great way to get notified when new videos go up. Also, check the description below for a link to a list of cars I'd be interested in reviewing and driving on the channel. If you've got anything that is or isn't on that list, hit me up at my email in the description below. We'll try to work something out. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great day. I know I am. Take care, guys.